Hello and welcome to Recap 40. Today we look at the romantic movie Meet Joe Black. Spoiler alert. The movie starts with Bill Parrish, being a rich mogul and chairman of the company, lying on his bed twisting and turning in his mansion hearing a strange voice. The scene then shifted to his daughter Allison eagerly planning his 65th birthday party. Allison's younger sister Susan is a beautiful young doctor, who has a relationship with Drew, a board member of Parrish Communications. When his company's helicopter lands at his property, Bill talks to Drew about hearing voices. On board the helicopter, as a concerning father, Bill is worried about Susan's relationship with Drew. He questions her love for Drew and suggests she takes her time to get to know him before making a commitment, recommending that she find someone she is passionate about and falls head over heel with. After deboarding the helicopter, Bill hears the strange voice again. He asks Susan, Drew, and Quince, who is his son-in-law, about hearing the voice, but nobody heard. They part and Susan stops by the coffee shop where she meets a handsome young man. He flirts with her, both showing cordial interest. He offers to buy her a cup of coffee. Seems like love at first sight, they both become very fond of each other. Leaving the coffee shop, heading in opposite directions, they both cutely turn back but not at the same time, and miss out the chance to see each other. As he stands on the street looking back, thinking about Susan, he sadly is struck by a car and lost his life. Meanwhile, Drew tries to talk Bill into selling Parrish Communications. In his office, Bill hears a voice again that says yes, while Bill painfully grabbing onto his chest. Later, while talking to his daughter Allison, he hears the voice again. Did you miss me? I'm waiting outside the front door, Bill. Bill tells Lillian, his housekeeper, if there is anyone at the front door. He is right. There is a young man standing at the front door, waiting for him in the foyer. Bill says to meet him in the home library. Behind the mysterious voice is a man taking over the body of the deceased handsome man who met Susan at the coffee shop. The handsome man claims Bill's life piques his interest. The mysterious man wants Bill to show him around, be his guide, and in return, Bill gets more time. Weeks, hours, minutes to live. The question on Bill's mind is, am I going to die? The young man said yes. Bill said, who the hell are you? The young man said, Death. That's me. Death stays in Bill's home. Bill walks Death to have dinner with his family. Bill struggles to come up with a name for Death, finally introducing him as Joe Black. Joe clumsily uses the utensil, sniffing foods. Shortly, Susan walks in, wondering what Death's doing here. Everyone sounds surprised that Death stays in Bill's house, wondering what Joe's doing here. Joe's awkward and clumsy gestures confuses and perplexes Susan. Joe wandering into the kitchen where the chef let him taste peanut butter on a spoon that he enjoys very much. Wandering into the pool room where he meets the lovely Susan, aghast that the alluring Joe she met at the coffee shop is acting aloof for seeing her here, for having a business liaison with her dad. Joe starts to question her relationship with Drew, and would like to be friend with her, claiming he does not have any friend. The next morning, Joe joins Bill at work, being introduced as Bill's personal associate at the board meeting. Joe enjoys the cookies and seems out of place with the uncommon commotion. In the meeting, Drew brings up the topic of an offer to purchase Parrish Communications, and asking for a board vote. Bill, however, shot down the deal quickly. Bill said this company is not for sale. Drew is visibly disappointed, spewing unhappy words directed at Joe, the matter on the table. Joe visits the hospital where Susan works. Susan is surprised to see him. While there, Joe encounters a terminally ill patient who instantly and supernaturally feels Death's presence. Joe and the patient make the connection. She is in a great deal of pain and asks Joe to make the pain go away. Soon, Joe apologized for being at the hospital while Susan professes to being with Drew. Back at Bill's place, he reminiscences of his deceased wife. Everything reminds him of her. Not a day goes by that he does not think about her. Drew walks in and shows confoundment of Joe's decision to oppose the merger. And again, Bill vehemently shot it down, not wanting someone to buy his life's work. Quince walks in and talks to Bill about the deal. Quince's response was it's up to Joe. Quince relays that response to Drew. Drew uses that response to devise a plan to fire Bill. At the family dinner, Joe and Susan talk about the terminally ill patient that irritates Drew. Drew shows his hatred toward Joe and disappoints Susan. Joe does not like the way Drew speaks to Susan, and discloses that he is not married or have a girlfriend. Susan starts to develop deeper feelings for Joe. Disappointed with Bill's decision to shoot down the merger, Drew conspires with the board to force Bill into retirement, using the presence of Joe Black as the reason that influences Bill's decision being inappropriate. Drew draws Quince into the meeting to disclose to the board that Bill confides to him that it's up to Joe Stans to influence Bill's decision. At the dinner, Allison celebrates Joe's birthday, but Bill shows little interest initially. Feeling the love for his daughter, Bill eventually appreciates her. They happily enjoy the cakes that Allison catered. Susan and Joe take a walk into the home library where they develop deeper feeling, kissing each other for the first time. Joe starts to have the human feeling of love. Joe says he has weak feeling in my knee. Heart beat faster. The next morning, Bill is surprised of the anticipated meeting where Drew trapped him to admit that Joe Black influences his decision. Who is Joe and his relationship to Bill? Does Joe rely on Bill to make the decision for him? Bill declines to answer. Drew invokes the board's article to force a vote to fire Bill and kick him into retirement. Eddie, a board member, voted no and stands with Bill. Quince feels being backstabbed by Drew, who got his father-in-law fired. Quince vows to stop him. Back at Bill's home, Susan and Joe get intimately involved. Susan confides to Bill that she falls in love with Joe. Of course, Bill opposes without telling who Joe is. Joe went back to the hospital to meet the terminally ill patient, confiding to her that he falls in love with Susan. The patient got her wish and passed away peacefully. Bill is ready for Joe to take him away, and plan for after the party. At the party, Joe asks Quince for advice on love. Quince revealed to Joe that he is the one who brought down Bill. Joe advises Quince to confess to Bill and he will forgive him. Joe developed physical attraction and love to Susan and wants to take her with him. Seeing Susan and Joe being romantically involved, Bill explains to Joe that his wanting to take Susan with him is not human love, depriving Susan of her precious life here on earth. Some aimless infatuation for the moment is not love. Trust, responsibility, be truthful, weigh the choices and feelings, not hurting the one you love. She must know who you are. Reveal everything about yourself. Joe spends the remaining hours at the party divulging in vague terms that he is not who he really is to Susan, but promised to Susan that she will always have what she found in the coffee shop, and love her always. Back at Bill's place, Bill and Joe devise a plan to go after Drew. Drew, sitting in the room with Joe and Bill, Joe said to Drew that the time has come for him to know who Joe Black is. Joe pretends to be an Internal Revenue Service agent to intimidate Drew and forces him to quit, and the board reconfirms Bill as chairman of the board. An IRS agent, death and taxes. Bill has a last dance with Susan. Joe, with teary eyes, sits on the bench watching the fireworks. At this moment, Joe admits to Bill that it is hard to let go. Joe walks Bill to the other side of the bridge as Susan watches on. Then, Joe emerged alone on the other side of the bridge and walked back toward Susan, but this time, the Death Joe is no more and is replaced with the same handsome young man with the memory at the coffee shop before his passing. Susan begins to realize that Joe is not the same man she falls in love with, wishing that he could have known her father, expressing, "I liked you so much," he said to Susan. "It'll come to us." Holding hands, they head back to celebrate Bill's life. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for more movies.